Dr. Marchangese here with your Science Moment. Today I'm going to talk about some differences, or a difference between social contagion and viral contagion. And we often use virus contagion as the metaphor when we're talking about social contagion, thus the word contagion at all. Now, in a viral contagion, as respiratory viruses, even though people have been talking about asymptomatic transmission, for the most part, it's not a real driver, as even Fauci had mentioned at the start of all this. It's actually quite rare. It's mostly driven by symptomatics. And so as long as you're seeing that you have symptoms, you can stay home and potentially minimize the amount of transmission that you'll get within the population. Now, social contagion is quite different. So in social contagion, the problem with social contagion is that when folks get this meme, this is what undergirds collective hysteria. These panicked notions, these notions of fear, these new kinds of righteous notions come in, and I say, okay, this must be right because there's all these high reputation people that are saying it, and so then I start saying it, and then the next person starts saying it. It becomes a positive feedback loop, which then informs some of those people, which informs other people, which are the people that informed me, and it sort of spirals into some massive loop, and the whole system starts to vibrate as one. But it's not equivalent or analogous to the case where you really can't transmit it unless you're symptomatic. Once you're infected with this sort of idea, you don't realize that you've been infected per se. I mean, you might say, oh, I have this idea, but you don't realize that it's potentially something that's dangerous and infectious. And so you're going to go out and talk to other people about it. In fact, it's worse than that. You're extra motivated to go out and proselytize about it. You're going to say, we have to do this, we've got to do these interventions and wear these kinds of, and do these draconian things in order to solve this dangerous problem. Right? So this would be even beyond. So the next step would be for a normal virus would be the typical case, I have a virus, but if I'm not symptomatic, if I have no symptoms, I'm fine. But if I have symptoms, I stay home. But what if it was the case that, in fact, even when I don't have symptoms, I can be spreading it? And so that would be the next and more dangerous case, because people would be all walking around and spreading it all the time, and you'd be driving the transmission even more quickly. But even worse still would be that when you get infected, you're more likely to go out and socialize. It makes you want to socialize. And there are infections that are like that. Rabies, for example, and I'm not an expert in these things at all, but rabies, for example, it makes you want to go out and infect others, to bite others. And there's lots of viruses or different kinds of infectious parasites and things that make the animal more likely to infect others. It encourages or induces behaviors that make infection more likely. And so that's actually the case with social contagion of this kind. It's not merely that you don't know you have it, it actually motivates you to infect others. Right? So you don't really know that you have it. And so even if you were just randomly going, hey, I just wanted to tell you about this, it would be more infectious than a typical respiratory virus, but it's worse than that. You're motivated to go tell the people about it and to motivate them, say, this is super important. You've got to do this. If you're not, you're a denier, and so forth. Social contagion is like rabies within the infectious disease world. Right? This is one reason when these things run through societies, they run through incredibly quickly and are very dangerous. They're even quicker in terms of the transmission, or the R value. I'm not sure if it's easy to measure these sorts of things when you're looking at social media, but there's a sense in which there are two qualitative levels of transmission beyond a typical respiratory virus, and more equivalent to rabies, except rabies is self-limiting at some point. The thing dies. In this case, I think it's even more dangerous than those sorts of things. And that was your infectious science moment.